best Shaw Brothers collection in the world, all right, in America at the very least. All right, again, his prints, especially Five Element Ninjas, we show all the time at the New
Diagram Pole Fighter print is my favorite print that I own.
Oh, it's gorgeous, it's gorgeous. Yeah, in particular, A Kid with the Golden Arm and Five Element Ninjas, we just show that all the time. We actually showed it, print of Five Element Ninjas, we actually showed it in Colorado when we were doing the Hateful Eight there. It was awesome. So, do a little question and answer session. Does anyone have any questions about the film? Okay, this guy's standing up.
Two-parter. First of all, was blood a line item in the movie's budget? Second part, how much was it?
I think with Greg Nicotero of Walking Dead fame, whenever he's done my movies, which started from Reservoir Dogs onto this one, blood is always a line item. And not only that, it's Tarantino blood. It's a certain kind of red. We've experimented with it for a long time. Finally on Kill Bill, we got the exact right mixture, and then it's been that ever since. Before I go to the next question, how do you guys like the programs? I have to say, it does my heart good to see everyone holding them. And I went to another screening over the weekend, and then I was getting there as the theater was letting out, and I was seeing everybody walk to their cars, all holding their programs, and it made me feel really, really good. Okay, next question. You, sir.
Yeah, the score is fantastic. It's like a character unto itself. First, I was wondering, did Morricone actually come out of retirement to make this score for your film?
He's not really in retirement. He still does Italian movies and stuff. In particularly, Giuseppe Torre, who's like one of his best friends in the world, if not his best friend. He was actually doing his movie at the same time that he was doing mine. He actually didn't know if he could do mine because he had to do his, and then he got inspired and was able to do it. But he's not retired. He just hasn't done a big American movie in a long time. Not since Warren Beatty, I don't think.
It's a wonderful score. I was wondering, as far as your working relationship with him, how did it? You filmed it and then you took a look and then did his own thing, or you kind of distracted him on going through this sort of?
Well, it was interesting because the thing about it was we were going to go sit there and talk about it, and he thought I hadn't started shooting yet. So he thought I was like coming to him from the very beginning, and I had actually had finished shooting, and I was like, no, that's not the case. I actually need it in a month. And he was like, well, I can't do it. I gotta do this, I gotta do that. But then we talked about it, and he mentioned that he had a theme in his head. So I'm like, well, this score you can't write. Tell me more about the theme in your head. And he did it, and it was really neat. And then he was like, well, maybe I can do that theme. And then, I can maybe even write a theme for you. And then I'll write you the theme, and then we'll do the whole theme mixed together. Then I'll do a version that's just the theme with strings. Then I'll do a version with just the theme with brass. And then you can put it together from some other soundtracks like the way you normally do. But then we ended up going to be together the next night. And I saw him the next night and goes, I'm going to give you more music than I thought. Literally, he sat down to write a theme and got very inspired. And so next thing I knew, 7 minutes of music became 12 minutes of music, became 20 minutes of music, became 32 minutes of music. So it was pretty much, for the most part, the entire score. Oh, but how he ended up doing it is he never saw the movie until the British premiere. He basically wrote it all based on the script. He translated the script to Italian. He read it, he loved it, his wife read it, she really loved it. All right? I think his wife liking it as much as half the reason he did it. But also he's also a cool guy insofar as he knew that was how I'm used to doing stuff, as opposed to scoring to this particular scene. It's like I take the music that I like and I put it in as I see fit. And he actually knew that that's how I kind of like to do it and how I'm used to doing it. So he didn't write to any particular scene, he just wrote to the script. He wrote to what he thought should be there as far as the entire story. And then inside of that, so he wrote the theme, then he wrote a big snow section, and he wrote a few other things, and then he wrote other pieces that he thought I could use as a film in telling my story. And so it was up to me to put it together. You way in the back there. Yeah.
It's kind of cliche, but what would your
advice be to an aspiring filmmaker?
Gosh, well, I've been asked that a lot, but there's a reason why cliches are cliches, all right? They're good. Basically, my advice to aspiring filmmakers is just watch a lot of movies. Watch a lot of movies, see what it is that you like, see what it is you respond to, and start asking yourself, what do you have to contribute to what's already there? Maybe it might be a point of view, it might be a storytelling style, it might be a lot of different things. But if you're not doing it as just fashion, but if you're doing it because you want to be part of this art form, then appreciate the art form. See it for what it is, and then see how can you be part of it. How can you be the next link in that chain? Pretty better answer than I normally give.
Yeah.
You sir. Yeah.
How do you maintain hope in the face of adversity?
Good question. I guess the opposite question is like, is there any choice? I guess you just do you do your best, all right? But I'm not really one to ask. I haven't really had that much adversity. I mean, I've had adversity, but basically I'm one of the very lucky people that gets to do the movies the way they want to do them. So you probably should ask somebody else that. I'm kind of a lucky bastard who's got,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I just had a question about the lighting choices that you had, because I noticed there was a lot of overhead lighting and side lighting that wouldn't really exist in the middle of a blizzard. So what was your concept behind some of your lighting choices?
Well, some of that is, that's just Bob Richardson's style of lighting and stuff and creating little pockets. And we were trying to stop it so whatever looked as if there is a light bulb shining down. But we're always hoping that there's a blizzard going on and there's all kinds of holes and cracks in the place. And so that maybe that's creating, even during a blizzard, there's white light coming in. So that was what we were going for. You, there,
Yep.
the cat. Right behind you. Yeah, you.
Can you talk a little bit about your decision to shoot in Panavision 70mm and how that was different, especially in the weather conditions, than shooting in other formats?
Well, you know what, we were all prepared for it to be very different as far as shooting, as far as the weather conditions were concerned. But that ended up not being the case, and not because the weather conditions weren't severe, but because our camera team was just really on it. Our first assistant cameraman, he's the guy who did all the focus pulling in the film. And frankly, I don't even know if me and Bob Richardson, our cinematographer, would have had the guts to make this movie without having Gregor on the knob of that. But he's also, not only is he pulling focus, he's in charge of everybody else. He's in charge of that whole camera crew, basically. He works for Bob and everybody else works for him. And Bob works for me, and that's the way it works. But the thing about it is that they did all the research, they did all the work, they got the lenses, they put them there. When they were not working, they were in a nice warm place. We were all prepared that there would be situations that they would freeze and we would just have to sit down for like a few hours. That never happened. We never waited for anything as far as camera was concerned. So as far as the conditions that we thought would be a big deal, ended up not being a big deal. They were a big deal for a lot of reasons, but not because they ever stopped camera. The reason that I wanted to shoot in this format was, well, frankly, at the very, 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 very beginning, it was just about the fact that I like film projection. So of course I'm going to shoot it on 35mm. That's not even a question. Of course I'm going to shoot it on film. That's not even a question. However, if it's just going out and playing digitally, and that is just the end result of everything that I've done, to me that's working to diminishing returns. And I've worked too long in my career to work to diminishing returns. And I thought that if I shot in 70mm, well, if they're going to actually spend the money to actually shoot on 70mm, well then they're going to actually care about having it shown in 70mm, or at least to some degree or another. Now, the fact that we were able to get 100 theaters out here in America and show it like this, which is like You know, but, I mean, you know. To put it in perspective, Interstellar, which has Christopher Nolan, and Warner Brothers could not love him more than they do. IMAX people could not love Christopher Nolan more than they do. And his movie showed on 11 venues. We've shown on 100 venues starting last weekend, and in 100 theaters, we made number 10 in the top 10 box office. In America. With 100 screens, we got number 10. It was us and Creed, man. Us and Creed were fighting it fucking out. And at the last moment, we pulled it out. It was pretty cool. But that's because of you guys showing up, man, and I really, really appreciate it. Woo! Right over here, you, sir.
Yeah, is there a reason that you chose to film a movie that is largely indoors in 70 millimeter?
Well, you know, the thing about it was like, that didn't stop me from doing it in 70, that didn't talk me into doing it in 70 millimeter, and it didn't talk me out of doing it in 70 millimeter. I understand a lot of people talking about, like, whoa, what's with all the 70 millimeter? It's just gonna be stuck in a fucking shack, you know, for the entire time. At the same time, I actually feel that 70 millimeter is more than just filming the pyramids or the 7 wonders of the world or filming the Sphinx or travelogues. It's more than that. And I've always thought, now this is me taking this thought to the nth degree, but I've always thought that the big scope formats, when used correctly, and not to say as opposed to incorrectly, but when used in the right way, can actually be more intimate than the normal standard ratios. That the scope ratios, that when put into a close-up, when put into a situation where the foreground is important, but the background is also important too, and you're supposed to be keeping tabs on what's going on in the background, even if you're not officially keeping tabs of them, I always figured that would be a good thing. And to me, that was the case. To me, you know, especially like I would imagine, because I was here, I was like way, way, way in the back. But I mean, you people, this row, that row, this row, here, at least the first 3 rows, it's like you're in minis. You're in minis. But then it's also kind of interesting because the people in the back there, you guys are sitting in the back. Now you're having a bit of more of an artistic experience. You're watching the frame. It's more like an exquisite kind of thing. You're seeing the framing in a way that you don't normally see before, and you're judging it that way. So, you know, in that kind of give and take with an audience is actually kind of fun. I actually think it's kind of a neat thing to do. You know, but it all depends on you guys. I mean, you're the ones that showed up on Tuesday to see it in 70 millimeter. How was it? Woo! And by the way, we should give the projectionist a big hand here. And one of the things that you guys got that you don't normally get is you actually had changeovers going on in this theater, and that's not the case normally. Normally, it's all set up and it's a platter system, and so it's just one big loop and it just plays. And then, you know, and look, in an idiot-proof world, that's exactly how you want it to do. But when you actually can trust the people that they're going to do it the right way is changeovers, and that's what Dan's doing here, and that's what you're going to do. You way in the back there.
I was just curious, when you cast the characters, did you have the actors in mind, or do you usually try to get, very different actors each movie you make?
In this case, a lot of the characters I wrote with actors in mind in particular. I kind of liked the idea, since it was going to be so stage-bound, of like working with actors that I knew really well, and I knew could do my dialogue well. So so 3/4 of the cast I wrote for them in mind. But then, but when you do that, conceivably, you're opening up the character on one hand, because you know what this actor can do, and you can write for that actor, and then they can really deliver something really wonderful. On the other hand, though, you're limiting them because you're limiting them by the deal of that actor. So when you write a character, you're not thinking about any actor per se, then the character can become anything. He can go anywhere. But now you have to find the right person to play that character. You know, a good example of that is the character of Hans Landa in *Inglourious Basterds*. Because when I first started writing that character, I didn't realize he was a linguistic genius. Not when I first wrote him. But then as I wrote him more and more and more, just every time he opened his mouth, he could speak whatever language that was appropriate at the given time. If a Filipino had walked into the middle of *Inglourious Basterds*, he would have been kicking it in Tagalog, because that is just who Landa is. But if I was writing that for somebody else who's not a linguistic genius, I wouldn't have given them that character trait. Then I gave him that character trait, then I had to find an actor who could do that, or else he'd be stuck on the page. And that was a similar situation to what I had with Daisy Domergue. Not because she had any particular aspects about her that, like linguistic aspects. But there was no way, and you've seen the movie right now, so you can see that Domergue is who she is, but you never have really met the real Domergue until you get to the last scene. And you realize she's been kind of hiding in plain sight through most of the story, pretending to be crazier than she is. She's like pretending to be a Manson girl before there was Manson. To some degree or another. And she is fucked up that way, but she's crazy like a fox. She is actually the leader of this gang. And that's a very interesting thing. However, you can't have an actress come into your office and then you can't give her the last scene and expect her to knock it out of the park, because you actually have to play every scene before that last scene, before you can do that last scene correctly. You have to actually play that entire role. You have to be Domergue. You have to live her every day of the shoot before you're ready to do that last scene. And so consequently, that was a very hard role to cast. But part of the thing that helped me cast Jennifer was the fact that, one, she's a fantastic actress, and I started watching a bunch of her old movies, and particularly from the 90s. And it was just, I went on my own little Jennifer Jason Leigh Film Festival, and it was a really great film festival. I watched Mrs. Parker and the Vicious Circle, I watched Georgia, I watched Single White Female, and it was just one fucking great performance after another, and I wanted to be part of that rogues gallery of wonderful performances she does.
So I know that you've given yourself a cap on the amount of films that you're going to make, and you just have a few left. So I was wondering if you have any particular goals or something you want to accomplish with those films in particular?
Well, not make a couple of bad ones, all right? That goes a long way, all right? That's the goal for right now, is to end on 10 or 11 that are like, boom, all right? Those are good, and walk away from them. But by the way, that's not just around the corner. I mean, it takes me about 3 years to make one movie, because it's like, well, I have a little bit of time in between where I live a life, and then I write a script, and that usually takes a year or a little less, and then there's pre-production, and then there's shooting, then you gotta go sell the fucking thing. So it's usually about 3 years in between each movie, and that's if I get to work immediately right away. So if it is only 2 movies left, that's still 8 years from now. That's still a good decade, so we'll see. You, sir. Yeah.
I just want to ask, what was your favorite scene to shoot in the movie?
Oh, good question. What was my favorite scene to shoot in this movie? What was my favorite scene to shoot? I guess, I hadn't thought about it like that, frankly, to tell you the truth. I guess my favorite scene is probably the split diopter shot between Mannix and Warren at the end, when they're kind of laughing about the fact that they're going to hang her. Partly because what's in the movie is written, but we still had to get there. And we had to, like, when you get there, you have to know, is it right? You've told the whole story. So is this enough? Is this the ending? There is, it's not just following the script. You have to feel it, and you have to see it. Is this the end of the movie? And when I did that shot, and when I framed that shot, and then when we put the actors in there, and they're kind of laughing in that hollow, peck and paw kind of way, I knew that, oh, no, this is the ending of the movie. I was like literally looking through the camera, watching the end of the movie, as if I was sitting in a movie theater, watching it. So in a weird way, I guess that was probably my favorite, but it was my favorite because I knew that we had done the whole movie by that point in time. This is the ending of the movie. This was me sitting in a movie theater watching the ending. So the cumulative aspect of all that probably made that one my favorite. You, sir, in the blue. Yeah. The question was, he asked about the Lincoln letter and why I wanted to end the movie on that. Well, I didn't know for sure I wanted to end the movie on that. I did know I was going to end the movie on that. I didn't know I was going to end it exactly the way that I did, though, and that's kind of how you kind of want to keep it. You want to shoot the stuff that's at the very, very end, shoot it close to the end. So you know what you've done, and you have a bit of a sixth sense about what you need. And so in the script, he read the Lincoln letter, but he didn't read it out loud. He read it like the way John Ruth read it. He kind of just like, oh, Mary Todd. That's a nice touch. And that's how it ended. And then the cat showed up again. The cat that you see, all right? Yeah, that was the whole idea. Was like he'd read that last little thing, then the cat, who's been hiding the entire time, jumped up on the bed, and then like warned him, "Who the fuck are you?" And so, but when it came time to do it, I told Maddox to just read the letter, and when he read the letter, boom, that was it. We knew that was the end of the movie. The movie's brand new, so I got to live with it for a while. I think this is my favorite ending of any of my movies I've ever done. The ending with the Lincoln letter is my favorite of all my endings so far. Sir, yeah.
Did John Ford and Walter Houston have any influence on you when the shots were making?
Let me say that one more time. John Ford about what?
Did John Ford or Walter Houston have any reference to the shots were making in the movie?
No, not so much shots or anything. I mean, really, there's no way you can do a movie where the first 45 minutes takes place in a stagecoach and not say you're not influenced by John Ford, all right? Especially since I actually think that in the case of Stagecoach, which I think is a fantastic movie, I'm not the biggest John Ford fan in the world, but I do think Stagecoach is a fantastic movie, and I actually do think it's a great inspiration on just modern filmmaking in general into the 20th century. But I love Stagecoach. But there's no way you can shoot a movie that deals as much with a stagecoach as I do, and not say you're not influenced by John Ford. Pretty much the actors that have been in my movies before, the ones that I wrote for. So I wrote Joe Gage for Michael. I wrote Oswaldo for Tim. I wrote Warren for Sam Jackson. I wrote Maddox for Walt. And I wrote, who else is Brewster. I wrote Smithers for Brewster. But Bob, I didn't know. I found Damien because Robert Rodriguez was just telling me, you've got to work with Damien Bashir, you've got to work with Damien Bashir. And Jody was very open, and so Channing built himself into that deal. And then when it came to Jennifer, for Daisy, I looked at a lot of different actresses and decided on Daisy. So Daisy and Jody and Bob in particular were the open ones. We'll get down to the end here. Are you with the red hair?
So, people have compared The Hateful Eight to Reservoir Dogs. Did you feel nostalgic in any sort of way, or what sort of ways would you agree or disagree with that?
Well, they're very similar in a lot of different ways. There is kind of a full circle quality going to them, even by using the actors and stuff. And the one set situation, the Thing situation, because everyone's like, wow, this is so much like The Thing. Well, it's a lot like Reservoir Dogs, and Reservoir Dogs is a lot like The Thing. So they that all kind of goes together as far as I'm concerned. No, I felt it was a full circle kind of aspect to it. You, sir. How many rounds we shot? I don't know. We didn't keep track. Not as much as Django. We shot a lot more Django. You, sir.
I saw online writer said that calling the character Joe Gage, he thought that was a reference to some famous porn director.
Yeah, and Joe Gage is the director's real name is Tim Kincaid, but his nom de plume, was Joe Gage. He made a lot of gay porno films in the oh no, absolutely. Joe Gage is a new director. As Tim Kincaid, he shot a lot of movies for Empire. You in the back there. Yeah.
I was just wondering about the violence part. I love your violence. It's funny and charming and silly. And the movie was so much about not violence, and the violence was just like these lovely elements that you lack. And I wanted to know more about why you approach violence this way versus like Kill Bill, which was vomiting all the time violence.
As far as I'm concerned, Kill Bill and Hateful Eight couldn't be more different from each other. One is jumping off from a very, very violent genre and subgenre, i.e. Kung Fu martial art movies, either the Shaw Brothers type or the Japanese samurai Lady Snowblood, Scorpion kind of movies. And Sasori. And so you've got like both of those movies. Both of those two types of genres that Kill Bill's based on is just a very violent, in-your-face. That is the storytelling style. They tell the story through the action and through the character's action and through set pieces of violence. That actually is storytelling as far as the films are concerned. This is coming from a different place. This is coming from more like a Reservoir Dogs place, or the basement scene in Inglourious Basterds kind of place, where it's like I'm taking the suspense and stretching it out like a rubber band. And the whole idea is, how long can I keep the rubber band stretching before the band breaks? Now, when the band breaks, you have a pretty good idea that a lot of shit's going to hit a lot of different fans. But exactly how and exactly when and exactly where, that is open to question. And maybe you're thinking that way for a certain part of the movie, but then maybe the story starts grabbing you, or maybe the mystery starts grabbing you. And then you become a little less about that until I make it about that again. So they just have very different concerns. There is this, and also this is the first movie that I've ever done that is, I'm throwing my hat in the ring at least it's a bit of a drawing room mystery going on. And one of the reasons I like that is I thought that would work well for the story, and also I actually thought it would work well for an audience, that we haven't really seen a mystery done in a while. So to actually have a group of characters and be trapped in a room with them and trying to figure out who poisoned the coffee could be a lot of fun. So how did you guys like the mystery aspect of it?
Oh yeah! Do more!
Okay, so I'm going to do 3 more questions. Do you want to see whose hands are up? There, somebody there, somebody there, somebody there, somebody there. How about you, sir?
So I just read this online interview about Latest. You were talking about you wanted to originally cast Jennifer Lawrence as Daisy, but she was too busy, so that's why you went to Jennifer.
I could imagine her playing Daisy, and I think she's a really terrific actress. So we got together and talked about it a little bit. But she was just too busy, and ultimately I did like the idea of casting an older actress. But it was at the very, 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 very beginning of the process. But I do like Jennifer Lawrence quite a bit, and I can see her doing a good Daisy. So we had a talk. Oh no, I would absolutely. I think she's like a young Betty Davis. I think she's fantastic. So anybody who works with her is lucky. And let's see. You, sir. Yeah, you.
Yeah, great movie, man. It was awesome. I wanted to say that after watching it, it played out like a play.
Mhm.
As you were writing it, was that your idea that you wanted to kind of write a movie kind of like a play? And also, rumored that you want to start writing plays.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about turning the theater. I've been thinking about turning the theater with this piece in particular, actually. I didn't start writing it thinking about, hey, I want to make it a play, but once I was trapped in the one room, kind of what it was. And so I wasn't going to fight that aspect. I wasn't going to try to break it out or have them get to Red Rock or anything like that. It was interesting, though, because I actually had to consider, after I finished this, I go, well, maybe I should do this as a play first. Because it would be, you know, of course I can do it as a movie, and then I do a stage adaptation in a year or two later. But then the idea of like, wow, what if I were to like come to Broadway or something with this as a piece of original material? Wouldn't that be interesting? So I thought about it. But, you know, we had the 70mm already kind of set up, and the snow was a really interesting aspect, and it seemed like there was too many wonderful movie things to ignore. But the main thing, though, was I did like the mystery aspect, and to me, if I was going to do it as a play, I wouldn't play the mystery aspect so much. It would never leave Minnie's haberdashery, and it would start with chapter 5. So I was doing it as a play. You would see them show up in the very first scene and kill everybody, and set everything up, and then you would see the characters 2 by 2 show up in the piece. Now, I actually think that's a really good theatrical way to tell the story, and I actually think that would be very exciting. But the mystery kind of goes away, and you can only have the mystery once. So that's why I decided to do it as a film. But I could very well do it in the next year or two as a stage play. And I just gave you a preview of how I'll do it. I guess this will be the last question, and I'm going to go with this young gentleman right here.
Are you planning on any more cameos in your own film?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I couldn't wedge myself in here because it was. Yeah, I guess I could have been Charlie. I could have been working for Minnie, but you know. I couldn't fit myself into this one, so we'll see what happens. All right. Okay, hey everybody, thanks for coming out.
Next show, so we are going to have to move everybody that way. But I do want to thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your fight for film.